I'm going to caveat this video by saying that I am personally in kind of like the finance, business, and a little bit of tech recruiting track. If you're not interested in at least one of these sectors, this video probably isn't for you. Sorry. So today we're going to be talking about summer internships and career anxiety. It's just very difficult and kind of confusing, so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. First thing we're going to be talking about is the role of internships by year. After your first year in college, assuming that you don't do any internships during the year, your first internship is going to be the summer after your first year. Now, no one actually expects you, and by no one, I'm meaning like companies, employers, just like peers, no one really expects you to have an internship first year. One, because you just don't know enough yet, especially if you go to a school like uchicago where you don't jump into your major right away, right? There's a core, there are required classes. No one expects you to kind of know anything. What your internship is going to be, places you can find them are either one, more on-campus or campus-related jobs. Some really popular ones would be like teaching assistant for a specific class. So you could be a research assistant for one of your professors for a class you really like. You could do summer classes. For other internships, you could work at an NGO, you can work at a nonprofit, you can work at a charity. Basically find kind of unpaid internships. If you do want to find a paid internship, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because most intern companies do start finding people at least second year starting. Another option is for you to go outside of the US. I know a lot of international students watch my videos, so for me, you can get OPT/CPT after a full year of studying in the US. It's a little bit difficult when you're first year. So my first year summer, I actually went to Indonesia and Beijing for my internships, specifically because I couldn't get that in the US. For second year, most people will either have some sort of like plan for second year summer around February, March, and sometimes even a bit earlier. So this is when you actually can apply to more internships sponsored by companies. Now, there are a couple of programs I want to highlight in case for some useful info. One would be any sort of early insight program. So what that basically does is during the school year, they will give you some sort of like campus recruitment. They'll come to your school, like different companies, and they'll be like, hi, join our coffee chats, join our groups, etc., etc. Go for these 100%, because if you do get accepted or if they like you, it's always a good like opportunity to network, because networking is basically making friends, but they happen to be working adults in a company that you like. That's how I think about it. So it's always go to these like coffee chats and try to get into the early insights program, because what that will allow you to do is allow you to apply to these internships early. And it always just shows that you're more interested in the company, which is solid. The next type are kind of diversity, inclusion initiatives. So I know there's one for like women in business, there's for women in STEM. There are also one for like LGBTQ, like BIPOC. So different companies really do have different standards. I know the big financial services firms all have like diversity and inclusion programs, but it depends by company to company. But usually the larger the company, the more they have these sort of programs. And then the last one I want to draw your attention to is doing startup work. I know it's kind of an idea that some people will shy away from because everyone kind of wants that like brand name of working at a big company. But the reality of second year internships is that you probably won't be able to get one. For example, Morgan Stanley, obviously very famous for their like third year, fourth year full-time jobs internships, but for the second years, they actually do have a limited sophomore program. I think they picked 20 students for each division, so like investment banking, fixed income, etc., and that's split between 10 girls and 10 boys, or like 10 guys and girls, right? And that's it. That's all they recruit. You do a rotation. It's a lot more chill than your third year internship, but they select a very limited amount of people as sophomores. So overall, getting a job at a big bank as a sophomore is just going to be harder. That's just a period. So what are some other things that you can do? One is kind of utilize a bit of your like college knowledge and stuff to kind of go forth and do your own personal project, right? So you can work on a startup, previously mentioned, you can work on your own startup. You can build some sort of like something to showcase your skills. If you're someone who's like in software engineering or tech, open source projects are everywhere on the internet, super great. If you're someone who's more financy, you can consider doing one of the Coursera financial markets course that I personally recommend, or you could do something related to like specifically like financial modeling. Now, as a last resort, you can reach out to companies for unpaid internships. If you're someone who's not super pressed about finances in the summer, you just want a good internship, if you reach out to some of these like family offices, local offices, boutique firms, and you offer to work for free, most of the time they'll at least give you a couple interviews, they'll reply your emails, and you have a better shot. Okay, third year internships. You will be thinking about this throughout your entire third year. Recruiting season for third year summer internships, funnily enough, happens second year, so a year before, especially if you want to do finance. I know for consulting, I think it's about 7 months. For tech and data, it's also a little bit like, you know, more of a normal recruiting timeline, and startups and stuff just kind of happen all year round. But for finance, for example, the applications for next year, summer internships, are due, I think, June 1st for some, or even they've already passed, like I think May 1st for some, which is insane, right? But that's just the way it is, which is kind of crazy. Right, so for third year, you definitely want a solid internship, no matter where you are, right? You want a paid internship ideally for about 10 weeks long and include some sort of training, something you can put on your LinkedIn and put your like managing person on there, so in the future companies can call and be like, I was working with this person. Fourth year, self-explanatory as well. If you don't get a return offer from your third year internship, so basically they don't give you an offer, then you basically have to start the third year process again, network, go to coffee chat sessions, and then try to find an internship. But if not, and you have a return offer, then you're kind of set. Unless you change your mind last minute, you don't take the offer, then again, you'll have to go find something. So that's basically it for like internship information. Now let's talk about all the problems with this situation here that is just some stuff that I dislike and just like stuff in general, okay? One is the culture. It's just a fact that people are going to be pre-professional at your school. It doesn't matter what school you go to. Like I picked uchicago because I thought uchicago would not be professional at all. And it's still kind of true, but only when you average it out. There are specific groups on campus that are just extremely pre-professional, and that's completely fine. It will definitely create a more competitive, like kind of like flexing on each other on LinkedIn situation. That's just not worth it, right? But if you're someone who maybe doesn't really like to think about that, you can definitely take things at your own pace. Please don't buy into this idea of like, I must have an internship like during the school year and like true during the summer, etc., because that's what I did, and it did me like no good. That leads into my next part, which is personal like management, aka what I think you should use internships for. I made the mistake of jumping right into a sector that all of my friends were doing, that uchicago had a really established path for doing. Because it is so established, because we have so many connections with it, and your school probably does as well because these companies are everywhere, it's very easy to just kind of follow that path. However, I'm telling you that as an internship, it's not worth it to invest your time unless you're like 100% sure that this is what you want to do. If you're not 100% sure that this is what you want to do, definitely look into internships in other sectors. Some other industries like tech have higher skill requirements that if you start earlier on and kind of look into that, you'll get a bit of an advantage that way. Now I'll talk about my personal experience with internships in general. So first year, I actually had an internship. It was a Series A, so pretty earlier on, VC firm based in Chicago, and I worked there I think for 3 months-ish towards the latter half, so spring quarter of my first year. So how did I get this internship? It was actually completely by chance. My friend calling me to like, hey Chloe, do you want to join this competition for venture capital? And I was like, I know nothing about venture capital. He was like, it's fine, none of the other people on the team know as well. And I was like, sure, why not? So I joined the team. We grinded for like 2 days, just like researching like what are term sheets, how do you write term sheets, how do you invest in like startups and stuff. We went to the first round at uchicago, and we managed to win the uchicago round, which was insane. And there were a couple of judges there who were actual, you know, investors and VC people who came and judged our performance. One of the judges reached out to everyone who was at the competition and said, hey, so my firm in Chicago is looking for interns. This is not on Handshake, but would you guys like to apply? So the bunch of us applied. We all met up at the office. It wasn't really an interview. Everyone just kind of sat around a round table. TLDR is I got the internship. I worked there. It was a lot of fun. And then leads me into my summer, which I already talked about. So I worked at a tech startup in Indonesia. I worked at a bigger kind of like fintech company in Beijing. I also worked at UOB for a little bit for their digital banking. I think this is what you should be doing. You should be testing grounds and like using internships to kind of like test your footing in different industries and different structures. Some people like startup environments and just like don't like corporate environments. Some people love corporate environments. You know, they prefer to be given instructions and being taught and it being more of like a structured situation rather than figuring out everything yourself. Just figure out what kind of person you are through your internships, and that's what I did. So for second year, obviously, I was recruiting very, very hard for different internships. I actually landed 2 offers for the summer, but then COVID hit, and then I took a gap year, right? And that just completely tanked all of my plans. And then here I am. So let's talk about where I'm at right now. You've probably seen that clickbaity thumbnail right there, and that might be why you click into this video. And if you're here from the timestamp, welcome. But I accidentally got 3 job offers in a week. Technically it was 4, but we'll talk more about that. So I was sitting at my desk thinking to myself, okay, I'll go on Handshake, right? I'll just check it out. So I go on Handshake, I see this kind of interesting tech startup. It's a cybersecurity startup backed by the Harvard Innovation Lab, and I was like, this looks pretty interesting. It is an unpaid job, but I thought to myself, you know what, I'm not doing anything during the school year other than like YouTube and like my personal projects and classes, so I'll just try this out. So I applied, and the interview process was super chill. It didn't really feel like an interview. It was more just like them asking what part of this startup you would like to be in. And then that's it. I think they need all the help they can get. So I've been working with them for a little bit, and then I thought to myself, you know what, this job is like not particularly difficult, so why don't I do something more like photography related. I was like, oh, I like photography. Check out my photography Instagram. Why don't I see if any photography studios in Chicago want an intern? So I just went on Google Maps, and then I searched professional photography studios or like portrait photography studios near me. And then like a bunch of them popped up. I looked through their portfolios, found like 3 that I liked just like, randomly, found their email on their website that's just listed there, and I just emailed being like, hi, I'm a uchicago student, yada yada yada. I'll put the exact email I sent here. I got a call back in the first 30 minutes saying, hey, yeah, no, I'm looking for like an intern that I can teach photography stuff about, and that person will have to help me like carry some lights around or like help me edit some photos and post. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds like fun. And then the next day, I got another call, and they said the same thing. We jumped on the call, and they were like, okay, I think we would love to like have you like help around the studio. What times are you available, etc., etc. And then the same thing happened with the third one. So my lesson from this is, if you want to be more in the creative space, I think taking initiative is just super important, and you don't always have to go to big companies, because honestly, you can learn a lot from these studios who are just so willing to teach. So obviously, I didn't end up taking all 3 offers, right? Like, that's just not humanly possible. So I am working with one of them on more like a project by project base. So if they have a shoot coming up, they'll call me, see if it works with my schedule, and then I'll go join them. So that's how it works. That leads me to my big internship question, which is my biggest role right now is I am the strategy ops intern for a very amazing startup, but I can't tell you the name. I'm not allowed to tell you what it's called. It's very secret, top stealth startup project, and it will launch this summer. So once we are launched, I am able to tell you guys what this is about, and I think it's something that I'm very excited about. Obviously, I'm working on it, and yeah, that's basically it where I am right now. Full disclosure, I am currently recruiting for another internship in the summer. For this internship, I just did the first round interview yesterday, I believe, and I wore this exact outfit, so that's why I wanted to show you guys this. It was over a Zoom call, just turned on video. It was like an hour long. It was kind of chill. I think I did kind of well on the first round interview. We'll see. But this one is more structured, so there will be a second round and then probably like a super day, potentially a third round, then a super day, but we'll see. So as of right now, those are my summer plans, okay? I think about internships and career stuff a lot, but I will say that I am not, like, I'm still figuring this out, guys. I am still hoping that I can get a cool, you know, full-time job that I really love out of college, so I'm just trying to figure it out as well. So yeah, let me know any fun stories that you've heard, what are you doing, or just any questions you have for me. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.